Welcome everybody to the 16th episode of the No Name Cinema Society. And yes, you might have figured out we are here to talk about the EDM movie with Zac Efron. We are your friends. My name is Jonathan Betzler. I'm one of the hosts of the No Name Cinema Society. And this night is momentous. This film is momentous. Set some records at the box office, some dubious records at that. Currently, it's the third worst box office weekend for a studio film of all time. But there were four of us that accounted for that 1.8 million. That's like, 0.07% of the whole box office was us. And I'm in New York. I'm in Riverdale, and Jay Money and I went to see the movie together. Hey, Jay Money, welcome back.
Hey, it's good to be back. We put a dent in it for them. They owe us, actually, really.
And sure here's what the movie theater looked like. If you can, I am not in this particular photo, but this is Jay Money and my sound designer Matt Polis. This is what our theater looked like on a Saturday afternoon. So anyway, that was very fun. I like having a movie theater all to myself. Jay Money?
Yeah, no, it was nice and spacious. It was quiet. I mean, people clearly left us alone. That's always a good thing when you're in New York in a theater. I mean, I'd like to point out that theater wasn't just any theater in the middle of nowhere. That was in 34th Street near Penn Station. The hub.
34th and 8th, AMC Lowe's.
Very, very busy area. And yet we had the room to ourselves for the most part. I think we had maybe 6 other guests by the end of the film. I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I bet the over-under was 10. I said under, and I won, so I was excited about that.
You can be guaranteed that anyone that shows up to a theater in New York, 30% of them aren't there to watch the movie. So ultimately, I would only count maybe half of the people that were actually in the theater that day, who were actually taking it in.
Right. And we have of course our third member of our group, Drunk Davie. How you doing, bro?
Look at me. Don't bro me if you don't know me, man.
There we go.
How has your week been, my man?
It's been long. It's been busy. But it was good. It was good.
Uh-oh. That's one of those situations.
Apparently his week was good, but in the meantime, I'm going to move forward with our.
I think it's good that his week was good. I think it's good that he left it on that note. Let's just all pretend that he had a great week. No other questions.
Whatever you had to say, my man, we missed it.
It's all right. I knew I was frozen, so I just.
Okay. Anyway, so We Are Your Friends is tonight's movie. Aspiring DJ Cole lives in the San Fernando Valley, not too far from where I normally live, with his friends as they try various schemes to move up the world. Cole happens to meet one of a world famous DJ by the name of James Reed, who notices his talent and tutors him. That relationship strains Cole's relationship with his friends that you saw in that photo there, and Cole then has to make some potential life-altering decisions. So I hope you guys noticed, at the very minimum, the similarity between this particular film and the many similarities between this particular film and a classic that we talked about when I was in this very apartment not too long ago. Jay Money, since we saw the movie together, why don't you do your opening statement?
Well, I guess what I would say is not as bad as I thought. How about that? I'm going to be very sort of diplomatic about it this time around and say not as bad as what I expected.
And I saw you nodding, so but you weren't on camera, so you know what classic I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it was something that I thought of repeatedly as we were watching the movie, and it's funny, as the movie unfolded, it kept becoming more and more true.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And I think as we go along, it'll be a great prism to talk about the movie through. Why don't you tell the audience what classic we're talking about?
We're talking about Ishtar. No, we're talking about Saturday Night Fever, of course, a classic. A classic. A lot of the
similarities are rampant. Davey Joe, what are your opening thoughts?
This movie was horrendous. If we weren't doing this show, I might have left. It was.
Oh no.
It was unbearable.
I can tell you. All we had is horrendous. Do you have more?
It was unbearable.
I heard unbearable.
the performances were just cringeworthy. You know, moving the hands while I'm making a point, just so bad.
One of these days, Davey Joe, I'm going to teach you about acting because that has nothing to do with it. I would say that this is a flawed young movie. Like every mistake that I saw, I felt like was a product of youth. I saw a lot of potential in the director, and I also felt like it was actually very honest in the world it was trying to portray. And you know, that's closer to J Money's theory, except I didn't think it was going to be necessarily that bad. I mean, I was hoping it was going to be good. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad at all. And if you want to start talking about the performances, I think that's very naive criticism. I don't understand where you're getting that from. I don't have any issue with performances.
I thought that they were I thought that again, you know, and I go to this often. I think that there were some sort of caricatures, and I also think that basically there was some really like sort of overly cute dialogue between Zac Efron and I'm blanking on her name that was just so bad. Oh my God, dude.
One of the major pluses was I felt like it treated its subject and its characters with a certain amount of respect and reverence. And I felt like each scene, you know, was executed with a certain amount of verisimilitude and honesty. Like I feel like I bought each scene and the way that the scenes were developed and you know felt very organic to me. J Money, what do you think about that?
I think I split somewhere between the two of you guys. I think that I kind of agree with what you're saying in terms of your overall assessment, JB, in the sense that I felt like there were parts of it that were commendable and there were a lot of parts of it that were flawed. I would say, you know, it wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't a good movie either. I think that there were plenty of things that I had a lot of issues with, and I think overall, I think if we're going to have one thing to disagree about, it's probably about how we interpret what was authentic about the movie or real. I didn't feel like there was a realistic portrayal of a lot of different things that were happening in the movie, and I felt like that was kind of a problem for me because I was trying to figure out most of the time I was in the theater who this movie was really for. I wasn't really sure who was supposed to be responding to this movie. Because on one hand, I felt like the characterizations and the plot itself was very naive about a lot of different things.
Young, that's the word I used early on.
Drug use, naive sort of about club culture to some degree, naive about these young, you know, entourage-y men who are trying to figure out their lives. But at the same time, I'll agree with you about the performances, and I'm going to disagree with Davey Joe on this one. I think the saving grace for me about this movie were the three protagonists' performances, really. Surprisingly so. I did not expect that. I didn't expect to actually come out of it feeling like they found something in their roles that kind of elevated beyond the stereotype that they were trying to portray. Because for me, all the other side characters in the movie were completely just broad stroke, kind of just set dressing. But Zac Efron, Wes Bentley, and Emily Radjika, I don't know how to say her last name entirely yet.
Now you got me spelling. Radzikowski.
I think, you know, by the end of it, they found something in their characters that was both vulnerable and surprisingly sort of broken, which I think I really appreciated seeing that come out in the character, because I wasn't expecting that.
Now, there's a lot to dissect right there, and I think that there is a major issue with the movie stemming from something you talked about, but since we're starting out with the positives, just to hammer it home, I think Zac Efron in particular is an underrated talent. I mean, I think he gets a bad rap as a pretty boy, and the way he started in the High School Musical series, but I mean, since then, between this movie and like he's very funny in Neighbors, and that requires some skill. And also, like a film like Me and Orson Welles, this is a young actor that could be doing franchises that's choosing to challenge himself. And I think with each film, he seems to be getting better and better. I mean, Cole's a young character, but I mean, like I felt his hunger, I felt his inspiration, I felt his confusion. It was not. He wasn't playing a paraplegic or anything that normally gets awards attention, but I think he was playing a complete character, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think by the beginning of the movie, I felt like he was just kind of empty and kind of wooden, and I thought, oh no, he's going to be incredibly sort of dead throughout the entire movie. But by the end of the movie, I had sort of decided that ultimately that worked in his favor. Whether or not he was really doing that or not, I don't really know because I'm not that familiar with Zac Efron as an actor. So I can't really tell you if I think that it was because of him or because he doesn't know how to act that well. But either way, I think it really worked for his character. By the end of it, I was convinced that he was really suffering through frustration, that he was suffering through feeling overwhelmed and depression to some degree. So his sort of subtlety, the way that he sort of underscored his performance against everybody else's, and some of those performances were really over the top, I think actually worked in his favor quite a bit in this film.
I'm going to disagree with you about some of his friends. I mean, like, they didn't have a lot of screen time, which I want to talk about, once we get through the performances. But I did think that the actors themselves executed their roles appropriately, except for I like 2 out of the 3 friends. Anyway, let's put it that way.
Well, I guess, for me, I think that gets back to an issue I was saying earlier, which is I'm not really sure who this movie was for. In some ways, it felt like 2 different movies. It felt like there was
I completely agree with that, and that's my primary issue. But before we get to that, let's let Davey Joe chime in about the performance, because before he freezes up again, let's get a sense of what you had in mind, my man, Davey Joe.
The was fine. In Efron, it didn't speak to me the way the performance didn't speak to me the way it did to you. But I thought Squirrel was good. In the other guy, no, the skinny tall guy, the don't throw me if you don't know me guy was whatever. He was okay, but the guy that I found really offensive was the other guy.
He was struggling, and I like Squirrel as an actor. I thought he was a good actor. I just didn't think he belonged with the other 3, like in terms of look. And I thought that's an example of a young director, not thinking things through. I mean, I think that he liked him as an actor and tried to squeeze him in with, giving him earrings and putting his hat, but he didn't feel like, as good as the actor is, he didn't feel like he belonged with that crew. So that
we're talking about the runt, the guy, the short guy.
Yeah.
You don't feel like he filled out a necessary niche to make this into that kind of movie? Like he was the character that we were talking about, who was in Saturday Night Fever.
I know exactly what you mean. But even that guy in Saturday Night Fever, even just being Italian and all that stuff, like I do feel like he felt connected to the others. I'm not saying that the runt aspect of him is what didn't connect him to the others. I'm just saying, like, his body type, the way he carried himself, like they tried to force that.
No, I agree. He didn't really kind of match the rest of them. So,
and I think Emily was fine as an actor, but I mean, another example of a director, not thinking things through. She's too beautiful. Like this is an example, and I feel I haven't said this on this show, but I mean I've said it a lot of times. Like, she's too stunning to feel like a real person. Like, if she was playing an actor or a model, like, you guys are laughing, but, I mean, like, I'm dead serious.
I don't disagree.
Well, I mean, I think that she might fit into that club culture world to some degree. I think that I appreciated that she ended up seeming so vulnerable in her role when it could have gone the other way. She could have ended up being...
I agree with that, but I felt ultimately she was a distraction because... if as good-looking as she is, she'd be treated differently by the world around her. Like, she went to a party where she was at one point like mocked, and I'm like, I don't think there's any way this girl is like the most stunning girl for miles, and regardless of how much they dress her down, I mean, she doesn't feel like genuine. And I mean, like Charlize Theron, who's gorgeous, well, managed to dress herself down in certain roles and make herself feel a little more, three-dimensional. In a movie like this, in a movie that is aiming for verisimilitude the way it does, the honesty throughout the scene, that was something that didn't fit. And this is not against her as an actor. This is a young director, getting a super hot girl who can act and not sort of thinking about how that comes off in the long run, like not putting thinking about everything at once. So anyway, I mean, have we covered performances thoroughly enough?
Well, wait, David Joe, was there anyone that you think did work well in this film, or do you feel like all the performances themselves were pretty flat and off? And
No, I thought Squirrel was good, and I thought the professional, the Reed, I thought he was
Wes Bentley.
Yeah, he was good too. But I mean, since I do have a positive, and I think there's about a 7-minute span of this movie that's actually watchable, and it's there's a section where he's kind of collecting sounds to make the song at the end, which ends up being I think the only interesting piece of music that you'll hear in the entire film, and it's very good, and yeah, that was cool, and then unfortunately the movie descends into garbage shortly thereafter, but and then it ends, thankfully, but that span is very good, and in kind of the creation of that song is I thought that was actually very interesting, and I did enjoy that.
7 minutes that leads up to the end, and I agree. I mean, one of the positives that I had is I feel like this movie's leading up to this moment, this inspiration, this potential success, and it earns it. Like, and the song is very, very good. And so I feel like, and I felt something, and that's why I feel like the movie's not that bad, because I felt like I felt connected to this moment of potential success and the future and all that stuff. I mean, it had that underdog feeling to it. So I mean, I think that's for me to feel that. Then the rest of the movie added up to something. My main issue with it is related to here's an example of that moment that Davy Joe's talking about. My main issue, I think, is the same as J Money's, and I think it might also get underneath Davy Joe's issues. And it's the same issue that I had with Saturday Night Fever, quite frankly. The script is meandering, and I think that's when you call it a couple different movies. I mean, I think that's what you're sort of getting at, is because the Cole's DJ storyline and the storyline of his friends and their troubles in the San Fernando Valley, they don't intertwine as well as I think the screenwriter would like. And the scenes cut back and forth, and neither storyline gets enough rhythm. And I think the director has a lot he wants to say. And again, this is why I feel like there's all these mistakes are a product of inexperience. The director has a lot he wants to say, and not the ability to structure a screenplay in a cohesive way.
I feel like the studio said, look, you're not allowed to remake both Saturday Night Fever and Boiler Room, so you're gonna have to just kind of mash them together.
First of all, the studio didn't say anything, because this was picked up. It's a rare acquisition film for Warner Brothers, so the studio didn't actually have any input during the making of the script or the filmmaking process. Maybe during the edit, but that's not. I think it's too late for that.
My point is that the side story just kind of felt shoehorned in, and I understand why it was there, but I don't know. I didn't think that it necessarily fit in well with the rest of the story, with the music and what was going on there. Also, were they putting that roof on one shingle at a time? I mean, like, months went by, and
you have a lot of experience with roofing.
Dude, oh, come on, man! Like, jeez.
J Money, screenplay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in some ways I agree with what you're saying. For me, I think the split is more about stylistic decisions that are kind of made for each of the storylines, and how that sort of divorces things totally for me. One half this movie was trying to be maybe a little more artistic in terms of interpreting drug life and club culture and all that stuff. And as much as I appreciate them trying to do that, I don't think the end result actually worked. I found some of the stylistic decisions, some of the graphic stuff that they did, for instance, where they bring in a lot of font and they bring in a lot of stock imagery and that kind of stuff, really distracting. But also, probably again, some decisions that were made by a younger director. I mean, for me, it's like, as much as I didn't think it worked, I did appreciate the intention. I appreciated that they were trying to do something. But that idea and all the graphics that came out of it, and that sort of like, I don't know, almost uplifting sort of free-form thing that they were doing, really did not seem to gel with the rest of the movie to me, which is ultimately about, artistic frustration and dealing with a lot of depression and dealing with a lot of failure in your life in general. So for me, it's almost like the first half of the movie felt one way, and the second half of the movie felt another way, and I kind of, by the end of it, wasn't really sure exactly who they thought they were trying to talk to in this movie. On one half, it felt like it was made for bros. It felt like the first half it really was for, sort of like the Jersey Shore group, and then the other half felt like it was for the Good Will Hunting group. It felt like there was a lot of different kind of voices involved, and I'm not really sure who they think would be the one that would be drawn into the story ultimately.
I think that I had that very same note about what the special effects. In fact, it reminded me of Comet in that regard, in the sense that it got a little too cute for its own good. Even the sort of things where they use arrows and voiceover to talk about the San Fernando Valley and explain life there. All those sort of visuals felt forced and counter to the experience and counter to the tone of the film. But also, it felt like a director not trusting his script to be able to tell that that element of the story in another way.
Yeah, it was such a surreal element that I felt like it really kind of, he was trying to make it amusing, but at the same time, by the end of the movie, it really wasn't about that. It was really more about this personal experience. So I really wasn't sure if it was just an issue of him wanting everything, wanting to try to put everything in this movie. Because I understand that. I understand that, feeling creatively like you want to show off everything you think you can do well. And sometimes that ends up adding up to this kind of messy situation. I think that kind of happened in this case specifically. I wish he hadn't. I wish that, to me, like it felt contrived, and it felt sort of like on the same level as like a Mac ad or something. It got really distracting and really took me out of the rest of the film. But, not A for effort, C for effort. I would say C for effort in this situation.
I might rate it a little bit higher, but I mean the other thing is that the script did not. There is something tragic that happens at some point in the movie. It's similar to Saturday Night Fever. I mean, the influence of Saturday Night Fever cannot be understated. And
like an homage almost.
What's that?
Like an homage in a lot of ways.
I have that same. I wrote that same exact word down. Yeah, and I think that the difference is there was nothing leading up to the tragic event. Like we did not see it coming, and that's fine to surprise us to some degree, but to not see warning signs felt empty, and I think it's another example of trying to balance two storylines in an unequal way, and I think it really hurt the film in that regard.
Yeah.
And like the impact of that had a great impact on Cole, and zero impact on us, and it should have had more impact on us.
Yeah. I don't know, Davey Joe, were you affected?
I was like, oh, there went the only actor that was.
Oh, wait, don't say stuff like that.
Well, we don't know. Well, I guess I did kind of say who that was, didn't I?
Well, nobody's going to see this. It's fine.
That's not true. That's not true.
I don't know. When a 3-week-old movie beats it for #1 at the top of the box office, that's a bad sign.
Well, but as bad as it did, listen, it was a trending topic on Facebook today, how badly it did. I think that might suggest people like, oh, wait a minute, I hadn't even heard about this movie until I know how bad it did.
Yeah, I don't know if it compels people to go to the theater,
It's gonna make money. It was an inexpensive movie. It's gonna turn a profit. So.
Yeah, most movies make their money on the ancillary markets anyway, whether that be foreign territories or home video, pay-per-view window. All right, so that's our timer. Basically, I would like to conclude things by saying that ultimately, the movie was scattered and somewhat derivative, but I think it shows some potential in terms of direction of actors and scene direction. I thought was honest and strong, and hardly a waste of time for me. J-Money?
I mean, I don't know if I'd say it was a waste of time because I have to hang out with you, JB, and that's always a pleasure, of course.
So sweet.
Would I have seen it otherwise on my own? No, probably not. I mean, I might have caught it if it was on TV, but I don't feel bad that I saw it. So.
David Joe, did you like this one? Did we make you like it better?
No, but you know the funny thing is that as much as I've ragged on this movie and it's talked about how much I hate it, I did give it more stars than candles that J Money.
And did you notice the Saturday Night Fever references?
Yeah, and it was Saturday Night Fever and Boiler Room.
Okay, well, I think that Boiler Room is not valid. But and nobody talked about my opening. Did you guys see my opening? I opened with a dance number. Nobody saw that?
Oh yes, that's right. You're a very good dancer, JB. Obviously, you should keep doing it. I'm glad that you found your scene now. I know what you're doing.
EDM scene. I've been listening to that music all weekend. And the other thing was about Cole's Memories, which is the song at the end. Is that, I mean, like, I know the movie is not doing well, but it was good enough to me, given the recent songs that have been nominated for Oscars. It was good enough to qualify, at least, for a potential song Oscar. I thought it was quality music.
Song at the end? Yeah. No, it's good. It's very good.
I'm going to split with you guys on that one. I thought that was actually pretty contrived and a little ridiculous, but I don't have a problem with the song as much as I just think it was kind of, silly. But, yeah, I mean, it could get nominated because it's a very thin category, generally speaking. So, if it,
ever the cynic. So next week, it's gonna be like 3 weeks from now, is our next review show. And our next current feature, as you can see, is Sicario, which is directed by French-Canadian director Denis Villeneuve, or Quebecois director Denis Villeneuve. And interestingly enough, he also directed the Indie Spotlight that we're about to talk about, a film called Enemy, and that we're going to talk about that in T-minus 3 minutes. So stay tuned. Check out our Facebook page for the link. Next up, in 3 minutes, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, we're going to talk about Denis Villeneuve's Enemy. We'll see you then.